Good morning. Welcome to a bright and sunny day with Rhubarb Yoga. So today we are going to look at warming up, stretching out and getting ourselves ready for practice. Don't know about any of you, but I do like and do a little sequence every morning. It gets me moving, irons out any niggles, creases, bumps, bad night's sleep, aches, and just gets me ready for the day. I definitely don't jump out of bed full of energy most days. I don't know about yourselves, I certainly hope if you do you appreciate it. And I don't drink coffee, so anybody that does and has that much energy in the morning, good luck to you for the day. So with our warming up exercises, they are not postures, we don't hold them, we move in them and back out of them again. And these are vital just to get the hips moving, shoulders, the back opening, getting our ankles activated and oiling all our joints ready just even for moving for the day. All of these can be put together to create your own sequence if that's what you'd like. You can do them individually, you can do them anywhere too. Don't really need a mat for any of these, and no props. So you can take this and go, which sometimes is the best part of yoga. Grab and go. So we're going to start with the basics. We're going to start cross-legged and we're going to do a nice simple twist. So just remember what leg you're starting with, because you need to change it. We need to make sure that we are straightening, stretching and opening both sides of the body to create the balance no matter what part of the day we're working with. And particularly in the morning, we might feel, if we've had a bad night's sleep, that we feel tighter on one side than the other. And the way we sleep can affect how we move in the morning as well. We all know that if we've had a bad night's sleep, we definitely don't feel our best. So, sitting cross-legged, this is known as easy pose or sukhasana. Okay, cross-kneed, and we're going to do a nice simple twist. And ensure whenever you move, work with your inhale and your exhale too. So as you breathe in, find a bit of length and try and elongate the spine, get that space moving in there already. And we're going to do a very simple twist to the right. Tented fingers at the front and the same behind, in the middle of the spine or near the sacrum, whatever works for you. If you can't quite reach the floor, don't worry. That's when you may think, I need a block. And if you do, put one there. If you can't quite reach the floor, hand on the shin. Absolutely fine. Work with your dimensions of your body. And take a breath out while we're in our twist. And then we're going to breathe again this side. So we activate the full twist from start to finish. So breathing in. And one more. And we're going to breathe out and return to centre. And we're going to swap the cross of the legs. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever you do something that's not habitual, it feels weird. So crossing with your opposite leg to what you normally do can feel a bit uncertain. You may feel you need to adjust. Do anything you feel that you need to make yourself feel comfortable. It's the same when we cross our fingers. If we do it a different way, we sometimes have to give ourselves a moment to catch up and think, is that really the right way? Did I do it like that? Don't worry, trust yourselves, you'll be fine. So we're going to take another simple twist to the left and we're going to take a breath in. And breathing out, twist to the left. And you may realise after a breath or two, the twist can become a little deeper, but don't force it. Space. You might feel nothing at all. And on the exhale, return to centre. So that was nice and simple. And doing that simply by just twisting, we're already giving our internal organs a massage, kick-starting our digestive system, and also just giving a little activation to the hips and the knees and the ankles already. So nice and simple without too much strain. So we're going to put the cross of the leg back again. And what we're going to do now, make sure you're comfortable in your cross sukhasana. We're going to put our hands behind us, underneath the shoulders and a little bit out. And as we breathe in, we're going to lift the pelvis up and come off the floor. If we come off the floor, fantastic. Please don't worry if you don't. And if you find this a difficult move, sit on a block and raise the knees. You'll see what I mean. And I'll turn to the side in a moment so you can see the side. So breathing in. As we breathe out, we're going to drop the knees forward, lift the hips up, raise the chest and open the front body. And for anybody that has hypermobility or any joint problems, this is a lovely ironing out of the front body, which can feel very tight if you're curled up in your sleep. Take a couple of deep breaths in and you'll feel the breaths feeling more rich because they're going to hit the top of your clavicle, your collarbones, your shoulders. Don't drop the neck back, it's not important, and this is where you can raise the block. So I'm going to come to the side, swap the other cross of the knees, and again we must make sure that we do that to balance the body and equal the pelvic stretch. By doing this pose as well, we're also helping the psoas open up and the IT band, all vital key components of the legs and the lower body to activate our movement, our strength and our foundation. So let me show you from the side. Taking a breath, placing our hands behind us, not tight in. We don't want to squeeze the shoulder blades and cause any tension between the neck. We're creating space, so have them slightly out, but behind. Take a breath in. And as we breathe in, we can drop a block just there, not a problem, but we're looking at opening up the pelvis. So if you're placing a block there, make sure it's high enough to allow you to drop the thighs forward. And this is where we're opening our psoas. We're also relieving any stomach tension. So if you are one of the population that suffer from that fabulous thing called menstruation, it will give you a little bit of relief, and we could all do with that sometimes. So that is a nice, simple hip and pelvic activation anytime, and it can do an amazing sense of space to the chest, which we could all do with too. So that's two very simple and easy movements, and I want you to think carefully about when you activate them. Think about how your knees are. And if you have tender knees, don't push forward. Place a blanket underneath them. You're still creating the activation, but the most important thing is we're working with the pelvic bowl and the hip girdle. The knees are not going to take the strain, and it's important you remember that when you go in to that hip lift. So we're going to look at another hip lift, and this one you can do when you're a little bit more warmed up, if that's more comfortable for you. And you can do it at the end of a practice too, to release any movement that you've practiced. So, nice and simple, keep saying that, it will be when you practice it. So, right leg, we're going to bend so that the calf is at the side of the thigh, but the thigh is pointing forwards. The important thing about this is the knee rotation. So, I want you to bring the foot in and then turn the leg. Don't just go, right, I can do that. That's when you're going to pop a knee. And if you've got delicate knees, it's not something you should try. But I have an alternative if your knees are tender. So we've activated and turned our foot, keeping our foot at the side of our bum. It will be on our hip. It doesn't have to be touching. It's not about that. So if it's out at the side, that's fine, but don't turn the foot, because then you're adding pressure to the knee. And you're also twisting the hip in, which is not what we're looking for. So make sure the foot heel is pointing upwards if you can. And the left leg, we're going to bring the foot into the thigh. Now please don't worry if you can't meet it, okay? It's not a problem. Creating this space can be possible without having the foot pushing against the thigh, and I'll show you why in a moment. Please place a blanket under this knee if it's tender. And also, if the hips are a little bit sore, sit on the block first as well. That will also help the knee and this calf release too. So again, we're going to do similar to what we did, but we're going to do it at an angle, so we're opening one hip in particular. So we're going to place the hands behind us, and we're going to lift again. And as you can see, the focus is opening this main quad on the right leg. this leg is actually not doing a great deal, but the calf, the shin, is your prop, and that is your point of balance. So if your foot isn't against the knee, it's okay. You could have a blanket there to support, but it's this side that we're opening up, creating a stretch right up the thigh, into the psoas and into the hip. Lowering down. We're going to switch sides. But what I'm also going to show you is the opposite to bending that leg, so that you can activate it and access it without twinging your knee. So we're going to have the leg forward instead. And we're going to bring the foot to the thigh. So we have a different kind. Now this can feel a lot stronger, so please play around with them. And if this pose isn't accessible for you, then don't do it. We have loads of other alternatives. It's not something that's necessary. It's a choice to create some space. So you may feel, once you've done that pose, there's a little bit of movement there, or a stretch. Make sure it's a good stretch. So this one, we're going to make sure this leg is forward. Okay? We're going to place the hands behind, again, not too tight, not too close. We don't want to squeeze the shoulder blades. Even though we're opening the chest and creating that space upward, we're not trying to condense and tighten the back. Hands behind, lifting up with the pelvis, breathing in, and again. Once again, we're opening the left leg, and this leg again is the prop. The shin is holding us up. The front pelvis is opening. It has a slightly different sensation, and the quad isn't stretched quite as much. So this may be more gentler for you. And again, if it's not for you, please don't worry about it. So we're going to look at a slightly different hip opener now. Something that can be quite fun, and there's never anything wrong with that. It can be called zigzag legs, just a bent knee twist. Be careful if you have tweaky knees. Please go at your own speed. It is not a competition. So, feet wider than hip width. And yes, it's not, as they call, a ladylike position, but some poses aren't in yoga, and it's not about that. It's about the body and how we feel in it, not other people judge about us. There should be no judgment. So again, hands behind us, propping us up, and we're going to rotate. So as we rotate, it doesn't matter where your shins and your thighs fall, but keeping that 90-degree in the leg is the important thing. It means that we've got a good, solid foundation in both legs, and we're allowing both legs to fall to the side, and our hands are propping us up. So breathing out, we're going to rotate over. And as you move, you're going to feel that opening. Again, the pelvis is lifting, but it's not lifting up, it's lifting across. So we have a different rotation in the socket, which gives that more wider mobility. And some of us do need that. And let's rotate. You can rotate with your breath. You can rotate twice within the breath. This is nice and simple. It can be done anywhere. And this just is a lovely hip loosener at the start or at the end. If you feel that you've been doing a lot of biking, running, anything like this can loosen the hips and just give you relief. So nice and simple. Coming back. Now we're going to look at a couple more. There is one called proposal position, or double 90s. You may have heard that with lots of different terminologies, not necessarily classed as a yoga asana. So, coming up onto the knees, and again, I want you to be careful about kneecaps and tender legs. This, again, lovely thigh, it can warm up and release at the same time. So double 90s, as you may guess, is 290 degrees, or proposal position. So, when we come into this, I want you to make sure that your feet have a space between them. We're not talking tightrope space, we're talking train tracks. So shuffle your leg over, and that gives you your stability. If you feel you're still wobbling, the back toes can go up. Some people feel that's slightly more unbalanced, but I want you to pick what works for you, even while we're just standing here in this. So place your double 90s, and what I want you to do is place the hands on the hips so you can feel that your pelvis and your bones are level. We don't want them tipped, we don't want them twisted, we want them nice and balanced. And then what we're going to do is we're going to activate as if we're bringing the foot backwards and the thigh forwards. And it's a really simple movement. I imagine a lemon squeezer between the thighs and we're trying to squeeze that lemon. So if you do it, you just pull it forward. You'll feel the calf activate. You'll definitely feel your front quad move. And what that's doing is just getting the movement into the thighs and it will stretch all the way up into your psoas. And because you're on your knee, also your IT band, your interior tibia. So let's have a look. Sorry, your iliotibial. So we're going to take a breath in, and as we breathe out, we're going to activate. But I want to make sure your bum's not sticking out. We don't want that, because straight away the front leg collapses. Tuck the tailbone. Imagine you're going under. You'll feel your stomach engage, and then we bring the foot back, and we activate the thigh forward. And it can be intense, so I want you to breathe. And you can be here as long as you want, or you can change and come back. But it is definitely creating an activation, and you need to breathe. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Make sure you're upright, but not stiff. Tuck the tailbone, and then release. And you're going to feel that in that thigh. So we can swap knees. And let's go around to the other side. But what I also want you to do is think about your kneecaps at the same time. They can get tender if you're on them for a little while. Double up the mat. Get a towel, tea towel, whatever you've got at hand, okay? But make sure it's nothing slidey, slippery, or that's got really great sheen on it. Otherwise that and you will be going in different directions, particularly when you activate the legs. So doing into our double 90s. Make sure when you look down, thigh is perpendicular, thigh is horizontal. Correct your spacing. And if it's first thing in the morning, ignore the clicks and the pops. That's your body de-junking air and detoxifying anything that's been sitting and pulled up from the body while it's rested through the night. Okay, hands on the hips. Let's get ourselves balanced. Tuck the tailbone. That will activate the belly. If you're familiar with your Muller Bandha, your root lock, please activate it. That will give you stability too. Hands on hips. Hand on the front thigh if that's what you feel. And then bring the legs together. Activate. Apply your lemon squeezer. Front knee, over front ankle. Never like that. And not like that. Because we're not giving the body its fair movement. So make sure you're in the right position. Tailbone tucked, breathe in, shoulders back and activate. Definitely feeling it, maybe even into the groin. Release gently, come out of it gently. Okay, so let's look at another pose, which is more of a release, without a doubt. You can make it as intensive as you wish, but I wouldn't recommend that until you are truly warmed up. So it may be necessary at the end of a practice or a class, if that's what you're doing, before, or it can be a less intense warm-up. Your choice. Okay. So, this is classed as eye of the needle. We've done thread the needle before, which is a lovely shoulder opener. And eye of the needle is the hip version. So we need to have our knees bent, hands behind us. Again, similar position, slightly out of the hips and away. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the left foot onto the right thigh in a figure of 4. Now you may have heard of this as the figure of 4 too, instead of eye of the needle. It makes no difference, it's all the same pose. And this one, you are going to feel the stretch in that left hip and the top of the thigh and into the bum cheek. And that is why it's a valuable stretch, particularly at the end of classes. It's also brilliant again for runners, anybody that goes to the gym and does squats, anybody that works their thighs incredibly. This is a wonderful release and a really valuable tool to have if you want to be able to charge down. So, Keeping the front leg bent at an angle that works for you. We don't want the ankle on the kneecap, it needs to be underneath and on the thigh so it has support. And the foot needs to be flexed. By flexing, we are protecting the knee. If we have it relaxed, there is no activation there, so there is no support. By flexing the foot, okay, we are activating, keeping it protected, and that leg is charging. And we're going to sit there and we're going to allow it to stretch. Now it may not feel like you're doing a great deal, and if you want to increase that intensity, you have two choices. You can sit further up, and then you're definitely going to feel something different, and that may rise into the lower waist as well, and into the lower lumbar. If you do have a tweaky back, it's a valuable tool again. Please be careful going into the pose and out of it. So we can activate it by making it tighter, or we can bring the foot in too. So we can release back and come into it. And this is where you're definitely going to feel it into the bum cheek, into the hip, and to the top of the thigh. I personally really like the sensation here, but that's because I do struggle with tight hips. And it's something that I do like, and it really, really helps. You can do this on your back too. And that is something that we may have done before for a short period of time, but doing it sitting up, it seems a bit more accessible. And you can make this even tighter if you're doing well and you're remembering to breathe. So releasing out, you're going to bring that leg forward and bring that leg down. Now if you're feeling any uncomfortableness in that knee, please don't do the other side. Some people are just not made to have their knees in certain positions. It doesn't mean that they are failing, they are no good at yoga, it just means your body is not okay with certain positions. That's down to bone structure. There is a difference between bone structure and muscle flexibility. We can all increase our flexibility and our strength through muscle activation, but we cannot change our physical bone structure. And until you start exploring it, you cannot realise. And if it does happen, unfortunately, acceptance is one of those things. Your body can just not go in that direction. So we're going to do the other side to balance up. And while we're doing this, I want you to work and look at how your body's reacting to these movements. It is going to tell you, and if it's not happy, it will tell you straight away. So hands behind, hand onto the thigh, activate your foot, and just breathe into it. Now you may feel that you want to push the knee away. Please do it with caution and light movement. The weight of the leg and gravity is perfectly enough. You're going to feel that feeling, starting movement in here, in your hip, in your thigh, and allow it to be there. If you feel that you want to go further, walk forward a little bit and sit up straighter. That will give you the lower lumbar stretch. You can come closer if it's accessible, but only if it's accessible. And then walk the other leg forward, backwards. And this is when you're going to really feel it into the hip. And this is also when it's going to tell you if you should be doing that movement. You can walk in one more step. And please do this when you're warmer, not when it's first thing. Not everybody's body can be accessible immediately. Then we're going to step back and we're going to drop the foot. So, those particular movements are all nice, warm up, cool down, stretching and accessible movements. The last pose, reverse tabletop, is just an open body release. Can be simple, doesn't have to be exactly executed. You can still achieve its initial sensations from a half lift. And I'll show you. So we're going to bring our feet out parallel. A nice bend in the knee. We don't want it tight. We need it nice and loose. We want our hands underneath the shoulders this time. Okay? And when we breathe in, We're going to lift the chest up, so we're keeping that back nice and straight, so the legs aren't doing anything but propping us up, but we're bringing that front of the body forward, opening up, and we're opening out. And this is an absolutely lovely thing to do first thing in the morning. Releasing all the intercostal muscles in the ribs, particularly the pectorals too. Not necessarily the shoulders, because they're holding you up. You will get some shoulder release going through to the armpit. You may even feel that your breath becomes deeper because you can breathe up into the very peak of your lung. So when you're doing your breath work, think about how you're breathing to access this movement. Are you just belly breathing? We want to reach the peak of the lung. So we want to bring our breath up here. But when we return it and exhale, we want to release it all the way out to the bottom. So creating that space. And breathing out, we release. Now that can be classed as a chest lift or a half reverse tabletop. So simply, you're keeping the feet in the same position, make sure they're hip width. Knees are in, don't let them splay out. There's no structure or benefit in doing that. And we're going to place our hands directly under our shoulders again. But we want them at least a foot away to make sure that when we come up, we are in the right position. So I want you to breathe in. And as we breathe out, we're going to gently lift. And we're going to come forward, so the knees are over the ankles and the shoulders are over the wrists. So you may need to adjust, and if you have to adjust by being a little bit lower, that's fine. And we're bringing the belly up and the hips up and the front of the chest up. Please don't drop the head unless you're totally confident with your neck health. If you feel you need to adjust the hands a little, please adjust them. And that is our reverse tabletop. Opening the front of the body, releasing. If we drop the head, we're going to activate the thyroid gland in the throat. Be strong in the legs and strong in the hips. And then very gently come forward to release and scoot back to come down. So, as you can see, easeful, peaceful, calm, release. Hopefully any of those you attempt give you a little bit of movement, maybe a bit of space, some stretch, an opening or two, but you enjoy them, and that's the most important thing. I hope you have a wonderful, bright, sun-filled day. Be happy, be safe,